Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Scagly Bones back with another video for you today. So, this time, like promised, we're taking a look at Diablo 3 and Season 2 with our hardcore seasonal character. So, I've been playing for this character for roughly about 8-9 hours, doing some leveling up. It's gone a little bit slower than typically, just because I've been doing a little bit more with crafting and some other things while I was doing level up. I wasn't trying to speed level this character. Typically, if you have a plan in motion, you can speed level in about 6 hours from 0 to 70. But we've been doing some other things, trying out some things, and I've had a couple of slow times with logon and some lag recently. So, just wanted to go over couple of things with you, and that is the build that I've primarily been using. And as you can see, I'm at level 67 right now, so only got 3 levels left before we hit level 70. And as you can see here, I got my inventory screen up, and it shows my damage currently. Toughness that we're at, which we're only sitting about roughly right around 60%, all resist. We're sitting at 257,000 health, and our recovery, let's see here, life per second is 10,000 life per second. We don't have any life per hit, not a whole lot of life per kill. That's not a real big deal for us. Critical hit chance is sitting at 32%. Critical hit damage at plus 211% critical hit damage. So, pretty basic right now. Only have a couple legendaries at this point in time. As you can see, have a legendary Heart of Iron. Nothing special there. Profane Pauldrons. Of course, we have the Exarian. Nothing special there. The only thing special we have is Thunder God's Vigor, which the legendary affix is blocking dodge. It causes you to discharge bolts of electricity to deal 110% weapon damage as lightning. And most of you guys should be familiar with that belt. That's quite a popular one. The real thing that we want to focus on today is looking at the build that I've been using this entire time. So I wanted to go with a Blessed Hammer build for this leveling process. And as you can see here, my primary wrath generator is Justice. Now, because we are using a single-handed weapon, we are going to be spending quite a bit more than we would if I was using a two-handed weapon. So we are going to have a generator. Now, you can kind of do away with your generator if you really want to, because you're not going to, as you'll see as we go through a rift, we're not going to be spending quite as much because we are using Blessed Hammer. And Blessed Hammer only uses 10 wrath per cast. The reason we are using a single-handed weapon over a two-handed weapon is we're going to be able to use Fervor, which allows for increased attack speed by 15%, and all cooldowns are reduced by 15%. Also, it allows us to cast quite a bit more. As you can see, I can cast quite a bit quicker and get more Blessed Hammers out there quite quickly. And then Justice, which we are using as our Wrath Regenerator, then while the hammers are spinning, I can gain that Wrath back pretty quickly. As far as utilities, we're using Condemn. That gives us some cooldown damage, along with Heaven's Fury. Both are on a shorter timer because of only 15 seconds to 20 seconds. Of course, we're using Unleash for Condemn. Heaven's Fury, we're using Blessed Ground. Akarat's Champion of Firestarter, just because we're trying to do as quick damage as we can. And Laws of Valor, we are using because it gives us the increased attack speed. So we're trying to, like I said, we're trying to do as much damage. Now for passives, we're using Finery, we're using Fervor, and we're using Indestructible, just in case we run into a point where we have too many enemies and we do kind of die. This will, it's our get out of jail free card. Now, there's some other things people use as their passives. Some people use Holy Cause, but right now Finery gives us just a little bit more damage because of the fact that we have 7 gems socketed right now. And you want to socket as much all resist as possible. As you can see, I do have 2 strength gems because at the time I didn't have 2 extra diamonds. And then of course we want to socket for our weapon, or for critical hit damage at this point in time. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start and see how far we get here with this run. Now at this point I've been getting about a level and a half for each Nephilim Rift that we've been running. So pretty much what I'm doing is I'll cast about 3 or 4 hammers out, blessed hammers out, and then I will use my generator. Of course, every time I see a blue or yellow mob, I'll pop Accurate's Champion, which allows me to kill the mobs a lot quicker. Now, because my gear isn't that optimal right now, I am sitting at, I'm only at master level. I haven't gone to Torment 1 just yet. And I'll probably wait because I'm trying to play it safe more than I am trying to power level. Like I said, I played for about 9 hours, and I could have done it quite a bit quicker at Torment 1 if I would have had, would have been about 6 hours to level all the way up if I would have been at Torment 1 the whole time. But I would have had to do a lot more kiting, and it would have, as you get higher levels, it becomes a little bit more tricky with your legendary, with your heroic mobs doing the amount of damage that they do. So, like I said, we're trying to play it more safe than anything. But as you can see, even if I was at probably Torment 1, we'd be probably safe. So it isn't that much of a big deal. As you can see, even with the amount of Blessed Hammers that I'm casting, we're doing really well on our resource management. Big thing you want to look out for is if you're going to be using a two-handed weapon now. Two-handed weapon will allow for quite a bit better resource management because your casting of your skills is quite a bit slower. But because you're not using actually a lot of resources with this, you're using the least amount of resources for a resource spender. With Blessed Hammer, we're not that worried about it. Once again, like I talked about in a previous video, I am using a stutter step type of ability by pressing force move and force standstill at the same time, allowing me to continuously move without clicking on the screen. And that's what we really want to do when using this type of build. And one of the reasons I really like the Blessed Hammer build is the fact that if you notice, even with like wallers and stuff, the Blessed Hammers will go through the walls and continue to do damage. Whereas if I was using a Phalanx build, perhaps, or some of the other builds that we have, other than a Fist of Heaven build, which you can kind of cast over anything, this allows us to do continual damage, even though the damage is a little bit less than other builds. It does for some pretty consistent damage over time, and you don't have to worry about resources being burned out. I almost never get to a point where now using Justice allows us for some ranged attacking, which allows us to kite at times when we do start to get into some trouble and see too many enemies. So that is something you might want to consider. But as well, some people will go with more of a direct approach. Go with something like Cleave. You can go with, Slash with Crush, which will give you quite a bit more damage off it. That's kind of up to you, what you want to do. I just find I tend to get a little bit better damage out of this build over time without having to risk coming close to dying. A couple times I've had close calls, but nothing I haven't been able to get out of. So, and I've had to face a number of elite mobs, so it's not that big of a deal. One other thing that I do as I'm leveling up, I tend not to worry about getting armor from Kadala. If I have to get stuff from Kadala, which I've had to do a number of times because I've run to my max on blood shards, what I'll typically do is I'll only go for weapons, because your weapons at this point, or shield, for your Crusader, tend to be the most important things. So you want to continually be cautious of that, not worry about spending it on armor, because armor you'll run through quite a bit more frequently as better armor comes available, whereas weapons tend to last a little bit longer than armor does. So also, when I be power leveling, I tend not to worry about some of these guys so much, just because they're not as much of a concern for me. They don't really give you experience; they just give you stuff. But since starting out, when you start out for the first time in seasons, you're not going to have anything previously from any of the old characters. Now, fortunately, having already run through the game once, I was able to start off in adventure mode immediately. I did not have to run through. You will not have to. If you already played the game through once, you will not have to run through it in story mode again, which story mode is quite a slower leveling experience. So you want to be able to run through rifts. Rifts will give you quite a bit quicker leveling experience than story mode ever will. Of course, I start off doing bounties because you'll need to get the shards. I won't, typically, as well, I won't worry about crafting anything, because when you craft stuff, it just does not last that long. Normally by the time you get a chance to go back to town to craft something, you're already at a higher level. So, not that big of a deal. I do pick up everything. Reason being is that you want to get as many of the... You want to be able to break apart as much of the items as possible, so that you can build stuff. Gather, you want to be able to craft later on, so I do pick up as much stuff as possible. Now, some people won't. They'll just pick up stuff and then they'll... I don't sell anything. And that's just because it's, you know, it's worth more in crafting materials than it is in selling the items. Of course, you always want to click on it. Pulls a reflection anytime you see them. Just because you want always that extra bonus to experience. It's always very important. As you notice, I'm always trying to keep at least... Been able to keep up almost this entire time. At least one hammer up. You notice I got at least 2 to 3 hammers up at all times. Now, some people ask me why I decided, because I was always using the lightning one. The lightning room for Blessed Hammer. And the reason I'm using the fire one is it does more damage, and what it does is it explodes and it causes kind of a little spot on the ground that whenever they're standing on it, it does damage there too. So I actually found out I was using quite a bit more damage with this rune. I was killing stuff quite a bit quicker. So. Let's see here. Burning Wrath, the rune. Over Thunderstruck. Now you can use Thunderstruck. It will arc quite a bit more. And if you have a build that's based on lightning damage, you might want to use Thunderstruck instead. But I found that I was doing quite a bit more damage with this rune over Thunderstruck. So Burning Wrath. So I just use it instead. As you'll see, I keep going even after I kill the Rift Guardian. And that's just because I want to get the most out of blue enemies. Or any of our legendary enemies you want to get the most out of. And I'll typically go back to town right now. Need to get rid of all this stuff. And then we'll rinse and repeat. So yeah, I think we'll go ahead and stop here. We're going to do one more rift before we end this video. Actually, nice to kind of see something. See some new stuff here, but it's not a big deal. Okay. Like I said, this will be the last riff for this video. This is, like I said, it's a pretty simple build. Pretty simple way to use the build. It isn't the same stuff over and over. Now, a lot of people just think, oh, you're just clicking the same button over and over. You're not really doing anything. But a lot of with this build has to do with positioning. That's really what it comes down to with this build. More of a positioning build than anything. So, and you have to really time your cooldown damages as well. It's kind of important. Timing your accurates champion is important, because you'll really find out that you need it for any legendary mobs. I get. Whenever you get a conduit pylon, you want to run through as much stuff as possible, because you kill stuff quite efficiently. Really worried about so much picking up stuff is just killing stuff very quickly. I wish I had a little bit more all resist, but this is kind of gonna be normal right now for where we're at in the game. We're able to make, I wouldn't say able to make, but enough money. Some of the higher level gems. Now, some people say you kind of wasted that having indestructible. Gonna waste it because you haven't received any fatal damage. But last thing you want to do is get in a situation where you actually need it and you don't have it equipped. So I have too many times been in those situations. Not had it. Select. Fortunately, there's nothing that warrants me doing quicker damage. Having that, not having that. So. in my opinion. From what I found out, it's not really worth not having that. I said, wallers can be quite a bit of pain in the butt, as you can see here. But by using Blessed Hammer, you can kind of mitigate a lot of that. Not really worried about that. You can kind of now we had Justinian's Mercy, which is a flail for Blessed Hammer. We would gain the rune that allowed the hammers to actually orbit around us. So that would make this build all the better. But we don't have it, and there's no reason to not use this build, even if you don't have Justinian's Mercy. Still is quite a good build, even without it. Without that flail, but some people won't actually use a build unless they have all the components that they need for the build, which I find that's a silly reason to not use a build. Now I'm not saying that if I get a specific piece of gear that has a specific affix, that I'm not going to use the skills that are with that. But sometimes I won't use certain legendary items just because they have legendary affixes that I really don't want to be using. So I just won't use those items unless they're completely 100% better than the items that I do have. It's quite can be dangerous. These Mallet Lords can kill you pretty quick. Actually, a little quicker than these legendaries. I want to focus on him a little bit better. Kind of funny is if you noticed, I've saved my there you go. Get that guy. Once you hit level 61, you start getting marquee gems. That's where the gems. Where are we at? That's where gems become real valuable. In fact, more so than anything else. So. That was about the first time I made a complete loop and come all the way back around. Normally I end up at the exit early, but too bad. I was hoping to be closer to level 69 at this point, but I guess I'm not. So, not a big deal. Been kind of upset that I haven't been at Torment 1 already, but said it's less of a concern than dying early. Last thing I want to be doing is re-leveling up. Once again, like always, as a reminder, every time I go back to town, or every time you go back to town, you always want to get rid of all your equipment, your stuff. You don't want to keep anything that's at all in your inventory, because the last thing you want to do is lose a bunch of stuff. So until I'm fully level 60, I'm gonna upgrade my gems. Not really worth it. You don't get enough extra from your gems to really make it worth your while. Looks like we're almost there. Wonder why there's no enemies around when you need them. Looks like we're gonna have to backtrack a little bit. Oh, kill our Rift Guardian. Oh yes. Big thing you want to make sure you do is as soon as you pop your Accurate's champion, that's when you want to pop Heaven's Fury, because you get the most damage out of Heaven's Fury. Accurate's champion is activated. You want to do it almost immediately too, because if you don't, you could typically get two. Move it out about one Accurate's champion. If you do it the right time, it right. Even though I can get away without using my Accurate's champion, we're gonna so we stop after this. Good out. I'm returning to town. Well, folks, as you can see, that is the build that I've been using once again. And, of course, I'm going to turn in some stuff here and salvage anything. Let's see if I have anything of any use. Probably re-roll that. Some damage. Strength. Roll the vitality. I don't see anything else that's actually of any worth. No. It's interesting. I'll probably keep everything that I have here. Actually have in my inventory that I have on me. Probably until I hit level 70. But folks, as you can see, that's it for this episode. Hopefully you'll join me for the next episode. Once I hit level 70, I'll go and I get fully geared up. I'll go over that setup with you folks, and we'll see how my build changes then. So once again, this is Scagly Bones signing out, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up. Put in the comment section below any other type of content that you might like to see in the future. And make sure that you subscribe, folks. Always hit that subscribe button. And see you next time.